All right, welcome everybody to our session, and thank you for joining acu-CONNECT. Really excited to present to you our SourceDay Unified Supplier Collaboration Solution to learn how you can transform your PO collaboration for direct material purchases. Quick introduction of myself. I'm Colby Young. I'm VP of our alliances here at SourceDay. I've been with the company for about 7.5 years. Dabbled in a little bit of everything at SourceDay and landed here as managing our partner network, which Acumatica is a vital partner. We are a certified ISV partner on the Acumatica marketplace, and we will always be certified. We have a whole team dedicated to maintaining that certification. So let's dive right in. Just as well, some quick housekeeping. If you have any questions, please throw them in the Q&A. I have a couple folks on here helping me. We can answer those throughout. Also, if you see the polls at the top, I will be soliciting the crowd for some poll responses, so I'd love for you to participate in that. All right, so here's some quick statistics that may or may not be surprising to you all. So first and foremost, 52% of all purchase orders change before they're received and approved. So that meaning a price, quantity, or dates. Some folks we talk to, it's drastically more, drastically less, but everyone agrees that purchase orders are changing. We live in this world of supply chain disruption. 33% of parts are late. When you're a manufacturer or distributor out there, you cannot build your widget or fulfill demand unless you have your parts from suppliers. And having a third of them late, and specifically not knowing which ones are going to be late, there's a big wrench in the supply chain. 40% of invoices are mismatched. So in the supply chain world, you have to match the PO, the receipt, and the invoice. And if those three things don't match, you have to go reconcile that mistake before you can pay your suppliers. That can lead to poor supplier relationships, late payments, a ton of manual work. So all of these statistics here, a lot of them fall into a data issue, right? Acumatica is the crystal ball, and these statistics really point to how difficult it is to manage the supply chain and data inside of Acumatica. So these supply chain issues really span kind of across the board. And I'd love for everyone to really look at the first poll that we have in there, and love to get some feedback here is, what's your biggest pain point for your direct material purchase orders this year? We have missed customer deliveries, expedite fees, inaccurate inventory projections, late supplier deliveries, inaccurate MRP planning. If everyone wanted to go in and submit their responses, that'd be great. And while I talk about this slide, but you have these purchase orders that are constantly changing, causing discrepancies in MRP, accounts payable. It's causing kind of misalignment and internal friction with your suppliers, with your account managers that are trying to communicate to customers. The entire organization really relies upon accurate data in Acumatica, and that starts with your purchase orders. And if you don't have that accurate data in there, then you're going to have friction across the organization. You're trying to make business decisions on bad or outdated information. Supplier evaluations are something everyone tries to get their pulse on, whether it's late deliveries, purchase price variance. Very hard to have strategic relationships with your suppliers if you can't grade them. And you can't grade them or improve something if you're not measuring it. So you have to be able to measure it, which can be very difficult when you're trying to get all that data out of Acumatica and manipulate it in some way. Visibility issues. Any CFO on the line or any CFOs out there, they have to have visibility into inventory projections, when those items are going to arrive. They're trying to forecast inventory carrying costs in the right financial period. And if you think items are going to show up today, but they really show up in October, well, that's a whole different quarter. So you have some big visibility issues and when you're going to incur those carrying costs. And it all is about data quality in Acumatica. I can't, harp on that enough, is when you think about your supply chain, the only way to get a tight supply chain is accurate data. All right, so let's look at the results here. So inaccurate inventory projections, late supplier deliveries, those are certainly the leading contenders there. So We have most votes on inaccurate inventory projections. Projecting inventory right now, very, very difficult. COVID brought this really interesting challenge of trying to balance inventory of, we need to make sure we have it. We don't want to order too much, but you got to have inventory. The worst case scenario is a stock out. So we're really working with customers to hone that in a lot more to make sure you're buying at the right time, at the right quantities, and let's look at safety stock to make sure that we have that honed in as much as possible. So this is the problem that exists, and why this is so difficult is that you have Acumatica and all the stakeholders inside of Acumatica, but we believe the most important stakeholder is out here left in the cold. They don't have a room in Acumatica. They're kind of across the street. And to bridge this gap, it's emails, spreadsheets, and phone calls. It's disparate, siloed communication tools to try to keep track of all the changes in quantities, all the changes in dates, all the changes in pricing. So that's kind of up our next poll we have here. If folks want to participate, is what percent of your purchase orders are changing? Again, we see about half of every PO changes. If everyone wants to spend a moment here, look at the poll and kind of tag in here. If it's less than 25%, 25 to 50, 51 to 75, or greater than 75. This rate of change is going to affect, right, how accurate MRP is and how much manual work everyone's trying to do to bridge this communication gap to keep track of everything. And when you have that communication gap, it really leads to inefficient communication, because what happens is that every supplier is different. Not all your suppliers are equal. You have some suppliers you order from every single day. You have other suppliers you order from once, twice a year. You have some suppliers with short lead times, other suppliers with long lead times. And so when you're trying to manage everything with disparate communication, it leads to trying to do everything different with different vendors. Some are using spreadsheets, some are just on emails. It becomes impossible to manage. Not having centralized collaboration for the most important piece of your supply chain, getting all of your information and knowing what's on order, is extremely disorganized and impossible for procurement teams. As kind of sales, partnerships, marketing, we have all these amazing email tools to be able to see exactly what's going on with every email we send, every marketing email, every sales email. Was it open? Was it clicked? Was it forwarded? Procurement doesn't have any of that. They're really flying blind. We talked a lot about the inaccurate data, and it's really all about limited scalability. If you are a growing organization, this gap between Acumatica and your supplier network, if it's not already a bottleneck, it will become a bottleneck. So it looks like I have some less than 25% are most of the votes here. So that, great that you have your POs pretty locked in with suppliers and pretty accurate lead times, that you're not experiencing a ton of change. All right. So moving along, this is the world that your procurement teams are living in, right? You have your buyers that are creating POs in Acumatica. They're downloading them, they're sending them over, and then some are in emails, some are sharing Excel spreadsheets. Maybe you've tried to get a portal in place with some vendors. Everyone's using calls, hopefully not much fax. And then you have some vendors that want to transact on EDI. So just by definition, a buyer's having to live in all these different worlds, and all their different vendors need to act differently as well. Some are only going to be in an email. Some have enough volume to be in an Excel. Some want to be on EDI. Others may be a portal, right? And some you're just trying to call up because they're not responding to anything. So a buyer is trying to juggle all these different engagement models while trying to keep Acumatica up to date as well. So the solution is SourceDay. SourceDay is bilaterally integrated with Acumatica. And what we're able to do is read Acumatica via our certified integration every 15 minutes and pull all new POs or changes to existing purchase orders into SourceDay, digitize those purchase orders, and surface them to the suppliers and begin engagement mechanisms. We're also ensuring that every single purchase order with every supplier is delivered via email 100% of the time. Not only is it being delivered 100% of the time, we're providing visibility for procurement to know, was that email open? Was that email clicked? Was it downloaded, right? Giving that same great email capability sales and marketing has to the procurement side. That's going to eliminate a lot of risk to know is if my email that was sent out via SourceDay, was it even open or not? If it wasn't open for a day, 2 days, 3 days, massive risk. We need to call them. We need to get them on the horn, understand what's going on. We're going to miss delivery dates if our purchase orders aren't even being open. As updates are coming across from suppliers via our different engagement models, which we'll talk about, SourceDay in real time is updating Acumatica when they are approved. So we never update Acumatica until you say so. But when you are ready to update the system, it is with a click of a button, whether it's 1 updates or 100 updates. And that's at the line level back in Acumatica. That's driving that accurate data accuracy in Acumatica, proper MRP, higher match rates, all that great efficiencies that come when you can trust your ERP data accuracy. Oh, and for that CFO, inventory projections as well. So let's talk about how diverse supplier networks are. The reality is, in SourceDay, we've been in business for about 8.5 years. We have about 300 total customers. Across all of those customers, that's a whole lot of suppliers. I think we're upwards of around 90,000 suppliers in total across all of those customers. So we have a lot of rich data about what does a typical supplier network look like? How should they be engaging? What are lead times? What do geos look like? What is a natural disbursement? So what we've done with this data is say, okay, based on how diverse supplier networks are and how they need to be engaging and what those relationships look like, how should they be managed? How should they be graded? What do supplier scorecards look like for a low volume supplier versus a high volume supplier? You know, how are you going to get engagements from low volume short lead time versus everyday long lead time, right? There's a lot of variables that go into the best way to make these relationships successful. So that is what SourceDay provided, is what we are calling unified supplier collaboration, which is one platform for every single direct spend purchase order across all your suppliers. And we're able to meet suppliers where they need to be successful. So that starts just with emails, right? So we have tons of suppliers that short lead times, low volume, change adverse. All they need to do is meet you where they are today via email. They can respond to your emails. They can get their POs via email. They can, what we call a digital purchase order. They can give you updates straight from an email. They never have to log in. They never have to have an account on SourceDay. So tons of vendors, there should be never an expectation that they do more than communicate with you in email. And SourceDay can't make someone respond to an email. Your valued VAR can't make a supplier respond to an email. Acumatica can't make them do that. So for those suppliers that are just, those trouble suppliers that don't even respond to emails, we're going to at least give that visibility of, did they get it? Did they download it? Where's the risk in communicating with email that buyers do not have today? We are the only solution providing that visibility on purchase orders across every PO that's created in Acumatica. And then we have a very robust, what we call supplier portal or platform. We have about 18,000 suppliers that use SourceDay's platform every single day. And you're going to have a subset of suppliers that live there, right? They have such high volume of purchase orders, they need a platform, right? You're trying to go back and forth with spreadsheets constantly. That's really what the platform is meant for. Get into an intuitive solution that allows buyers and suppliers to manage by exception, be guided through that life cycle of a PO. And for the right suppliers, they absolutely love the platform. And then EDI. So we have a partnership with SPS Commerce that allows us to directly integrate to a supplier that wants to transact via EDI. There's no EDI purchase needed. There's no integration needed into our customer. It's all SourceDay. So SourceDay can now take the POs, deliver it through SourceDay, enter it via EDI into a supplier system, pick up those EDI calls back, translate it into SourceDay as an acknowledgement, update, ASN, all the different EDI calls. So regardless of what your supplier network looks like, SourceDay can now provide one solution to accomplish email engagement, supplier portal engagement, and EDI engagement. 100% PO delivery, visibility, engagement for all your suppliers and all your purchase orders. This is a game changer for a procurement team that's trying to juggle all these different communication models and keep Acumatica up to date and try to scale the business and keep up with demand. The visibility becomes impossible. So what does this mean for the organization, right? I've been harping on data a lot. When you have reduced errors, you have better relationships with your suppliers, you have better relationships with your customers, you have better relationships internally. Procurement's not having to field communication, streamlined communication from the account managers, from the sales team, from the shop floor. Everyone can trust what's in Acumatica is the latest and greatest information. Revenue, cash flow protection. Knowing when those items are going to arrive allows you to plan better, allows you to perhaps move inventory from one job to another. It allows you to proactively communicate with your customers when items might be late. We're all consumers. We all buy things. When you purchase something online, you get an email that says, oh, it's going to be delivered in 3 weeks, and it shows up in 3 months. You're pretty frustrated. But when you're told properly when it's going to show up, or you get regular updates of the status, you at least know what's going on. So SourceDay gives the ability to know in Acumatica what's the latest and greatest so we can communicate properly. And it's all about scalability. It's allowing an organization to scale their business without needing to add procurement headcount, scale it efficiently and effectively, and scale it making proper and accurate business decisions. And also scale it with good supplier relationships. Grade your vendors. Communicate with them on how can we get better using quantifiable scorecards. So one of our polls here was around supplier KPIs to see quality, super important. Of course, you've got to have quality inbound inventory to have quality outbound inventory. So super important, and to be able to communicate with your suppliers back of why something was out of spec. So we have one last question I'd love folks to respond to. We are doing a supplier network assessment. If you're interested in learning more about your supplier network, about how you might get smarter and better about communicating with your vendors, how you stack up against a general supplier network. Again, we have tremendous amount of data that organizations don't have about global supplier networks, lead times, variances in purchase price variance, how we're seeing lead time trends. We work with an economist to actually crunch all of our data to give readouts of what are the trends in the global manufacturing space. So love to connect with anyone that wants to go through that exercise and open it up to questions if anyone has any. It looks like Raj asked, will we have access to the recorded session? Liz, I think so. Will we be able to get this out as a recording to folks that want to view it or distribute it internally? Yes, all sessions are being recorded. Perfect. Any other questions we can answer for you? All right. Well, I appreciate everyone joining today. Try to stay on schedule. I think we're a minute away, so I'll stay on another minute here and answer any questions. You can throw them in the chat. I'm happy to answer them. Right. Well, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your acu-CONNECT. Thank you for joining today.